Hi guys, and welcome to The Truth Hurts with me, Tony Quinn. The Truth Hurts is a show about recovery and everything in between. Okay, so I actually just filmed this whole video for you guys and my phone didn't save it. So I've spent the last 20 minutes pouring my heart out into this camera and then it got deleted. But that's life. So I'm going to try again and try keep it quick because I think the phone just was like, nope, this is too long. You fucking being self-indulgent now, so off. Okay, so I wanted to do a video about the gifts of recovery because I've been doing a lot of videos where I speak about, the eating disorder recovery and self-love, but I haven't actually done a video in a while where I talk about addiction and what I went through addiction and what I went through in addiction and where I am now, and how my whole life has changed. And I decided to do a video like that. And it was amazing. I'm not gonna lie. It was awesome. Now this video is just gonna be like me trying to remember what I said. And yeah, sorry. So, when I say the gifts of recovery, I'm speaking about what I have accumulated over the years in recovery that is precious to me and that is beautiful to me and that I'm proud of, and things I never thought possible when I went into rehab for the millionth time. And the reason I want to make this video is to tell people who are fearful of seeking help and who are fearful of life without drugs or alcohol that you don't understand how incredible it can be if you put in the work, because this isn't easy. And us drug addicts, we like quick fixes, we like instant gratification, but recovery isn't instant gratification, but it is so worth it, and I want to tell you why. So before I delve into the gifts of recovery, I need to kind of establish where I was when I went into rehab this last time. So I had a lot of rock bottoms. I had a rock bottom in rehab where my kidneys went into failure, but that still didn't change my thinking. None of those rock bottoms changed my thinking. But before I went into this recovery, I was out of control. I was toxic. I was chaotic. There was nothing redeemable about me. I was stealing money from my mom. The one day, and I told the story in the previous video and I told it in detail, but I'm not going to do it now because I'm sick of hearing it. I used to run an events agency, and we had a massive event one night, and obviously events are the perfect place for me, and they're perfect to enable a drug addict because I could go out, I could speak to people, I could socialize, I could be on top of things all the time. I didn't have to sleep, and it was the perfect job for me. It was perfect, even though I fucked it up, obviously. So I remember going to this one massive event, and afterwards I ended up at our friend's house, and everyone had gone to sleep, and I was up, and I was using cat at the time. For anyone who's watching this that isn't from South Africa, I like to describe cat as, imagine a drug that is in between cocaine and crystal meth. Like, that's cat. So you might argue with me, but I don't know, that's how I see it. And I was doing a lot of that, and I wasn't sleeping, but I started to get sick. And I've been sick a lot on drugs. If you've done a lot of drugs, you get sick. But it was a sick I had never felt before, and I was really, really convinced I was going to die. I was at this house by myself, everyone was sleeping, and I just started vomiting bile. It was just so much bile, and the whole right side of my face went completely numb. My heart was pounding through my chest, and I just wanted to kind of get home. I wanted my mom. I wanted to go home to my mom, but I was still doing drugs before I left after throwing up and feeling so sick. I was still doing it, and I got into my car, which thank the universe was there. And now my house where I was staying was around the corner from this house, but I couldn't get there. So I took a road, and I just felt ill. I felt my heart giving up. I couldn't feel my legs. My legs were not moving. So I tried to drive, and they were not moving. So I pulled over the side of the road, cars coming past. It was just off the highway. And I got onto the pavement on the side of the road, and I just started vomiting, and I lay down. My car was open, keys in the ignition, and I just lay down, hoping that I would get feeling back in my body. And I remember people walking past being like, "You okay?" I'm like, "I'm chilled, I'm good, dude." And I think I waited on the side of the road, lying down, for a good hour. And I started getting that tingly feeling back in my legs and in my face. And I managed to drive home. And then I got home, and my mom was there, and I'd been missing for quite a while at this point. And she was like just happy to see me, but I wasn't well, and you could see I wasn't well. And I went straight for the bathroom, and I was just throwing up. I was so ill, but I was still doing drugs in that bathroom when I was sick. And I went into my bedroom, and my mom followed me, and I just hugged her. I put my arms around her, my nails digging into her back. I mean, I drew blood that day. And I kept saying, just tell me it's going to be okay. Tell me it's going to be okay. And she was like, just tell me what you are on so I can take you to the hospital. And I managed to convince my poor mother that I had just eaten something really bad and I had gotten food poisoning from it. And I refused to tell her what was going on. There were moments I was ready to tell her because I thought I was going to die. But then I was kind of like, well, if I die, I die. At least I'm with my mom, which is so selfish. But I survived that. And the weeks after that, I ended up basically living in my car in a friend's parking lot. And I would use the pool area to go to the bathroom, to wash up, to get clean, to brush my teeth. And that person still to this day, I don't think knows it probably does, that I was living in the parking lot. But then I got a phone call from my mom saying, you're coming home now, I know where you are, or we're calling the police and we're getting you tested. That day I had petrol in my car, drove to a Clicks, had money, a little bit, but I wanted to use it on drugs. So I stole a drug test and I tested myself to see if there was any way I could lie on, get through it without being caught as positive. But I went home, tried to get away with putting water, in the test or whatever, and found out I was on drugs. And I ended up going to my dad, trying to convince him I didn't want to go to rehab. And then he took me to rehab and this whole thing happened. And that was the last rehab I went to. And I went in there not wanting to get sober. I didn't think I could have a life without drugs. I didn't think I could socialize. I didn't think I'd have confidence. I didn't think I could work. What was a life without drugs? What was a life without that chaos? I didn't want that life. And even when I left rehab, I went straight home to my mom. I wouldn't go to a halfway house. After being home with my mom for an hour, I had a massive fight with her. And I thought, you know what, let me phone the halfway house and book myself in. Because if I do that, I'll be able to get a job. I'll be able to move into my own place and then I can relapse. And I have full freedom to do that. And that just never happened. And I'll tell you why that never happened. I didn't have some big moment of realization or some big spiritual moment that changed everything. I just started seeing the gifts of recovery and they happened slowly. I started making friends in the rooms. That's in Narcotics Anonymous. I would go to meetings every single night for 4 years, almost every single night. I would go to the meetings because I knew that if given the opportunity to go out on my own, I would probably relapse as someone who had been in and out of institutions for so long. And I made friends in the rooms, but also after that, I realized I needed to get a life outside of the rooms. And when I was 4 years sober, I decided, let me try this. And I phoned a friend who owned a bar, still to this day owns the bar. And I said, I want to come out. You guys know what I've been through. I'm going to go there. Please be there. I just need to see people. And I went there and I stayed for an hour and I started building a life for myself like that. I put down boundaries. As soon as I got uncomfortable, I left. After 1 hour there, I went home and felt so fulfilled. Like, I did it. I went there, I socialized, I got uncomfortable and I left, but I fucking did it. And that was 4 years into recovery, so it's hard work to get to that point. And that's when I found my friends. My friends, normal friends, friends not in the rooms, friends that still go out and drink and do that. And I don't have to because I put in the work. And I have such amazing friends that I found throughout this process that are my best friends to this day. And not, out of my closest friends, not one of them is in recovery. And I made friends without a social lubricant. They know exactly who I am, flaws and all. There's no hiding behind alcohol. There's no erratic behavior. It's just me. And it's amazing to say I have friends like that. And I love them so much. And that's one of my greatest gifts of recovery. And my second gift of recovery is obviously, a career. People always think, how am I ever going to get back on my feet after so long of being on drugs and having to steal and, hustle my way through life. I ended up building a proper career for myself from the age of 26. I never had a real job. And then from 26, I started building and building and building. And in my first year of recovery, I got a job and I could go buy myself a coffee. And it was my money. And I wasn't stealing. And I wasn't hustling. And I wasn't talking shit to get it. I could buy a coffee. And it's those little moments that you start accumulating that become bigger moments and bigger moments. And eventually you find yourself being self-sufficient without having to manipulate for money. And it's fulfilling because you worked hard for it. And you didn't fucking lie for it. And you got to this point on your own. And the self-worth you get from that, after knowing where you've come from, is so fucking beautiful. I can't even tell you how grateful I am to be in this position. And it is possible to get that in your recovery. And if that is something you want, you can do it. You can, if you work fucking hard, because it doesn't happen quickly. To get to the point where I am now took years. It took years, it took hard work, it took tears, it took crying, it took mistakes, but I got here. And to be grateful for something like that and to hold on to it like that is beautiful. And not many people can say that they've had that experience and that they're so truly grateful just to be able to buy a cup of coffee, And so that's the gift of friendship, the gift of career, the gift of relationship. After being in a really, really codependent relationships while in active addiction, and finding a real loving, caring relationship now where if I die, I know my boyfriend would be devastated. With my last relationship, I remember the one time I said, I'm going to have a heart attack, and I lay on the floor. This oak left the house, It was like a bye. Didn't care if I was going to die. I was the person buying the drugs, and what else was I good for? What else was I good for? And now to be able to have someone who I know cares about my well-being and knows, and I care about their well-being so much, and it's respected, and we love each other, and we care about each other, and we support each other without any ulterior motives, is a beautiful feeling. And I think if you are an addict, you've never known that feeling. In active addiction, it's impossible to know that feeling because you think you are Sid and Nancy, you think you are in a fucking movie and it's chaos and it's amazing and that's love. That is not love. That is just dangerous, and that will kill you or the other person. So to find real love is something I never thought I would find, and it is beautiful and it is so worth it. And it took years to get to that point as well, but I finally got there and I can enjoy it and I can love it and I can respect it, and it again is something I'm so grateful for. Having gratitude, that is the biggest gift, because I never had that before. I was grateful for nothing. The world owed me a favor, and now I'm just grateful to be here and to be talking into a camera and just to have love from all aspects of my life. And then finally, I want to end with the gift of family, because it is the most important thing that's come out of my recovery. I had a very, very volatile relationship with my mom in active addiction because she was the only one in my family who was so involved in it and saw it and tried everything to fix me. I was in an abusive relationship with her. I hit her, I threw glass at her, cut her leg open. I hurt that woman like no other, and if she never chose to forgive me, she would have every right to. I stole from her, I manipulated her, I lied to her. And in recovery, I have that relationship back with my mom. And one way we can put boundaries down and say, you're pissing me off, this is why, let's fix it. And we fix it. And she is one of my best friends now. And then my brother. My brother hated me. He had every right to. When my brother was writing matric finals, he moved out of our house and moved in with his now wife. And because he couldn't be around me, he was ashamed of me, he was embarrassed of me, he couldn't study because of me. I was toxic and it was ruining his life. And only 2 years into this recovery did my brother trust me again. And 2 years in was when he told me he was proud of me, and he did it publicly. He put it on Facebook. And I cried my eyes out because I knew in that moment I had my brother back and I could build a life for him, and he trusted me. And now my brother's my best friend. Hands down. We live next door to each other. He's my best friend. And then my dad. I never had a relationship with my dad for a long time in active addiction. My parents were divorced. I never saw him. And we spoke, we saw each other, but there was no real relationship there. And then when I put down the drugs this time, my dad was the one person that I could see who didn't judge me and who let me say what was on my mind and who wasn't paranoid about my recovery. He understood the one day at a time thing. He really understood that. And I needed that. I needed one person to get that, not to be on edge all the time, just to be like, you're here now, and that's all you need right now. And I got that from my dad, and he supported me. So, just wow. And he became my best friend. I saw my dad every single Sunday for my whole of my recovery. We would go to a specific coffee shop, and I would see him every Sunday without fail. And then I had to say goodbye to my father. And he battled cancer for 9 months. Pancreatic cancer is the most horrific thing any person can go through, and I saw my dad fight. And the one thing he said to me just after being diagnosed was, promise me you'll never go back. And I promised him, and he knew I wouldn't go back, he knew. And when I said goodbye to my father, I knew I made him proud, and I knew he trusted me to keep going. And I wish he never went through that much pain, but I'm so grateful that we had that relationship, and I'm so grateful for recovery because of that, because guys, your family is so precious, and you don't know when they're going to go, and you don't know what kind of relationship you can have with them. The fight, the hard work, the years of not being able to socialize in the beginning until you can, the years of trying to win trust back from your family and becoming self-sufficient is so worth it that I can't stress it enough. If you care about your life, let me take that back, because as an addict, you don't care about life. If you are hesitant about getting sober because you are scared to let go of the friends around you, you're scared to let go of that lifestyle, I can promise you that it is worth it, because what you build up in recovery puts all of that to shame. And as you slowly accumulate those things, it becomes too much to lose, and you don't want to go back. And life is beautiful in recovery if you work hard, you put in the effort, and you just take it one day at a time. So that's the gifts of recovery for me, and I wanted to share them with you all. And I hope this fucking video saves, because if it doesn't, I'm just gonna cry. I'm gonna relapse and die. Okay, guys, don't worry, I'm not going to. Thank you, and a little bit emotional there. And I will see you in the next episode. And if you have any ideas for a video, you have any questions you'd like me to answer, I mean, you can ask me anything. I'll do a video answering those questions like I've done previously with the frequently asked questions stuff. So yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my dad. And I just want you to know that recovery is possible. I'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe.